Son of a bitch, I ended up having my stream stop and I don't know why. And I don't care. I'm back.
In which gravity isn't technically even a force. Instead, GR tells us that it's a side effect of mass creating curves in the fabric of space-time.
That's not how it works.
So gravitational force, as we currently understand it, is more geometric in nature. GR's version of gravity also lacks a messenger particle, a particle that ferries the force through space and time.
And the other thing is, if you're having a warp of space-time as they are thinking it is, you have to end up thinking, okay, well, what are all the things affected by this warp? And are there things not affected by gravity? We say neutrinos a lot, but
electromagnetic force has the photon, the weak nuclear force has the W and Z bosons, and the strong nuclear force has gluons. Each is described thoroughly by the Standard Model. Some researchers have proposed the existence of gravitons for gravity, but there's no evidence that they really exist.
And the thing is that you're forgetting that everything in the universe is surrounded by the electromagnetic field. Again, the messenger particle isn't photons. What? Where? Why did you even say photons? The messenger particle of electromagnetic field is not photons. It's virtual particles. Virtual photons. A completely different thing.
Even if they did, there's still another pretty glaring mystery about gravity relative to the other forces. It is so much weaker. A cheap fridge magnet defies the gravitational pull of the entire Earth. Easy peasy.
Ah, come on, fellas!
Fridge magnet defies the gravitational pull of the entire Earth. Easy peasy. And the gravitational pull between two electrons is about 43 orders of magnitude weaker than the electromagnetic force pushing them apart. Sure, that's no 10 to the 120, but it's still an enormous gap. One way to bridge this metaphorical canyon is by adding extra dimensions to our theories for space-time. The universe we experience is made of 3 spatial dimensions and a 4th dimension for time, but maybe space-time has additional dimensions curled up and hidden because we're just too darn big to perceive them. Imagine walking a tightrope across our metaphorical canyon.
Here's the thing. It's called layers. As you go deeper and deeper down into tinier and tinier things, and you end up with what is essentially or seems to be just energy. You end up with all sorts of energy fields that, like the electromagnetic field and everything else that is surrounding that, you have tiny, tiny things that are, again, smaller than regular matter, and it's not photons, virtual photons. I don't even know. Bits of packets of things, and they all can be there and interact at their own levels. Once you get smaller and you're able to go even through those other things, like you end up thinking about how the distance of things can end up. Why the hell did it shut off my previous stream anyway? And will it exist once I'm done? I don't know. Um, but anyhow, When you think of matter, and you think of gravity, you have to think of it is affecting literally every piece of material that is out there. It doesn't matter if it's regular physical matter or it's the stuff that makes electrons or photons or everything else that's even smaller than photons. Again, electrons are connected to protons using tiny bits of energy. They aren't visible light, for example. That's what most people think photons are. Never mind. It's a tinier thing.
You can only move forward or backward, but if an ant decided to follow along for moral support, they'd be small enough to also move left and right, perhaps to better evade your feet as you inevitably lose your balance. If space-time really does have extra hidden dimensions, they'd only be observable using very, very large amounts of energy. So much energy, perhaps, that no experiment on Earth could ever reveal them. But if these dimensions exist, then gravity might be much stronger than we think. It would just have to spread itself across the many different spatial dimensions. That would dilute its full strength so that we, in our 3D subsection of space, would only observe a minuscule fraction of it. Or remember those theories that quantize space and might help us understand the universe's expansion? Well, they could also help explain how gravity fits in with the standard model. But we're technologically just as far from understanding quantum gravity as we are from finding any hidden dimensions. There is one argument that could explain not just why gravity is so weak, but many of the problems we've talked about in the...
When you talk about gravity being weak, you forget again that a gravitational wave is detected by a laser, and the difference in the frequency of that laser once it's finally emitted and then received. And depending on the timestamp, you know exactly where it was when it did the thing, and then you can reconstruct the structure of the wave as it passed through the laser. And with both lasers, you end up with a complete two-dimensional structure of the pretty much three-dimensional wave ripple. The wobble of literally everything else that's around you. If you don't start seeing that there is something in between all matter, it's a substance, it is basically smaller than even photons, and interacts with everything, and it is the thing that electrons and photons are literally interacting with in order to move in the first place. Once you see all of that stuff, then you'll be able to have a better understanding of the universe, and you'd have a better understanding of how gravity fits in. You're not there yet.
This episode. The anthropic principle says that the universe is the way it is because we're here to witness it. If conditions were just a little bit different, if gravity were just a bit stronger, if the universe were expanding just a bit faster, if all the matter and antimatter completely annihilated at the beginning of the universe, then we couldn't ask why, because none of us would exist. So it has to be this way. That sounds like a lot of fine-tuning to me, with a bit of circular reasoning thrown in there for good measure. It also sounds like a boring way to answer some really interesting questions. There's plenty to learn just by searching for answers, and getting unexpected results is part of the excitement of science.
A lot of the things that you want to try to figure out when it comes to scientific method and the way you actually do experiments about stuff, a lot of the things that we try to do, like finding planets we didn't know existed until we finally know where to look, and then we find distant planets, is we literally imagine it's there, and then we look. Why didn't it actually stop?